Hi, my name is Kerry Goulder from Kid Giddy, and I'm here to show you how to make the little jumper dress for the doll using my Kid Giddy Sizzix doll clothes die. And this fits the doll that you make using my Sizzix doll die. So to start, we need our die and our small cutting pads. Because we're only cutting a small, short amount, we can just use the smaller cutting pads. You'll need some clipping shears and some washi tape. I'll show you what to do with that on your die. And then you'll need the turning tubes. So to start, we're going to place some washi tape on the die, because on the die here you can see we have steel rule die along the bottom edge, the side, the armpit, shoulder, and the neck. But there's nothing here on this side that's going to cut any of the fabric for you. So that really benefits you when you want to make it a little bit wider, or if you're making a jacket. But here we want to make sure it's right there on the fold, matching up with these two endpoints. So I'm going to put some washi tape there as a little guide. I'm just going to line up that little edge on the top and the little edge on the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to line up my fabric. I want to make sure that my fabric folds are on this side next to the washi tape. I also want to make sure that I've got enough room here on the bottom and for that point, and enough room here on the top. You're going to do that for the front and the back pieces. I like to just do one fabric or one layer at a time when working on the fold, because I don't want the fabrics to shift too much. They won't really shift, but when you add extra layers, they might shift around a little bit, and I want to make sure that I really get that fold. When you're working with directional fabric, make sure that you have your fabric in the correct direction before placing it down on your die. So here I've got these two pieces. Again, I'm going to line up the two different layers here. This is a new color fabric. I'm going to line it right up to the edge and put that right through as well. We have two pieces of the lining of the dress and two pieces of the outside of the dress. Now we just need to cut tabs for the back pieces that will come over the front of the dress of the jumper. So to do that, we just have some little pieces of fabric here, and we want to put them right on top of the little tab piece right here. This is a nice long skinny tab, but this width is the same width as the shoulder. So we'll just put that right there and cut those out as well. Now we have two tab pieces for the inside lining, and we have two tab pieces for the outside of your dress. We're going to attach the tabs first, and to do that we just need one piece of each and the tabs as well. We're going to place the tabs right side down on top of the little shoulder section right there, and we're going to stitch those through, and then we'll do the other piece as well. This is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You want to back stitch the beginning and the end, and we'll do that on all 4 tabs. We've got our 2 pieces that we've just sewn the tabs for. We want to open up those little tabs, flatten them out. I like to use my little stiletto tool here. Just flatten it out instead of using my thumbnail. I'm going to place it right side down on top of my other piece, and I'm going to stitch both sides. I'm not going to stitch anything on the top, and I'm not going to stitch anything on the bottom. We're going to do the same thing for the other side as well, which is actually your lining. Make sure you backstitch the beginning and the end of these sides. We now have the lining of the dress and the outer of the dress sewn on the side seams, and we're going to turn the lining right side out, and we're going to stick it into the outer piece of the dress. Now you want to make sure that the shoulders line up here. I'm going to pin that in place. And pin the other shoulder, and then we're going to line up the tabs on the back. So this is where the pressing the seam comes in handy. And when you press them open, it actually reduces the bulk as you're going around and sewing these pieces, these tabs. Okay, so now we'll just line up this one. Okay, so now we're going to sew all the way around. When you get to the tabs, make sure that you use a 1/8 inch seam allowance. This is going to be a very small area to turn right side out, just like you see on here. That's a very, very small tab. So if you do it any tighter, if you actually use a 1/4 inch on here, you won't be able to get that through. If you're using something like wool felt or bamboo felt for this, you won't need to turn it inside out. I like to start my stitches in the back and just keep going around so that I don't have extra bulk or anything on my seam allowance in the front. Okay, so I'm getting to one of the tabs and I want to make sure I only do a 1/8 inch seam allowance. I like to back stitch over the little seams right there just to protect them from coming apart, especially when you're turning it right side out. You don't want to put all that stress on them. So just keep going around. It's okay to slow it down. You don't want to go off course. Just do a couple stitches, lift the foot, pivot the fabric, do a couple more, and then you're around that corner, and you just keep going. Back stitch over the seam, and keep going all the way around. Now we have the seam sewn all the way around the top edge, all the way around our tabs, our shoulders, the neck, and the armpits. What we're going to do next is we're going to actually clip and notch all the way around. So wherever you have an inward curve, you have to clip it. And that's just a quick little clip. When you're going around an outside curve, you need to make a little notch. And a notch is a little tiny triangle right here. So you just go around that outward curve. You can clip all in one direction and then go back and clip the other direction if you want to make it a little quicker. And you just need a few in there. It just helps to reduce the bulk in that top little point. When you get to a corner, you can clip your corner a little bit, but you have to make sure to clip all the inside curves under the armpit, around the necks, and then all the outside curves. When you're all done clipping and notching, you're going to use a tiny turning tube, stick it into that little tiny tab, and push it right side out. Do that on all your tabs and the shoulders as well. And when you do, you can just pull it out just like that, okay? And then we're gonna go around and pull the whole thing out. When all the tabs and the shoulder pieces are pulled right side out, you're going to just stick the lining right into the inside of the dress. Now we have our little dress, and we're going to top stitch all the way around. And again, I like to start in the back or at a seam. This is just a simple little top stitch on the tabs, on the shoulders, under the armpits and the neck. Just slow it down a little bit as you get to those tabs or as you get to the shoulders so that you don't run off course. Now that we have the top stitch all the way around the top edge of our dress, we are going to hem the bottom. To do that, make sure that your seams are flattened out and you just roll a little bottom hem towards the inside, and the lining you're going to roll also towards the inside, and you're going to line them up. And then you want to pin that in place. Then you can do the other side. Now, if you really want to embellish your dress, this is a good place where you can add a little bit of a ruffle. You can stick a little ruffle edge in there. You can attach it to one edge, either the lining or the outer piece of the dress, and then you can stitch it into your top stitch. That adds a nice little detail. Then we're going to top stitch that, and then your dress will be ready for adding buttons or snaps onto the little top. We've finished sewing the bottom hem of our jumper, and now all we have to do is decide how you want to finish it with your embellishments. So for this little jumper, you can add some little teeny tiny buttons. They're so small I can't even pick them up. You can add them just like that. You can put a little buttonhole in it if you want it to be realistic and usable, or you can use the snaps as we did on this dress. I find the snaps are really great for little kids because a lot of little kids still can't use buttons, but they can use snaps. You can also use a hook and loop closure. So you put one piece on one side and a little tiny piece on the other side. Now that you know how to make a jumper dress, you can add some other features to it. A little ruffled edge along the bottom so you can trim this shorter and add a little ruffled edge. You can add a tiny ruffled edge at the bottom here or even some rickrack. However you want to make it and embellish it, it's all up to you. I can't wait to see what you make.